Why is there a connection between the origins of mankind and the banking elite?
That's a very important question, and it's something that I normally pay quite a bit of attention to in my presentations, my longer presentations. It's yeah. So it was actually while I was writing Slave Species of God and looking into the origins of humankind and the Sumerian texts and how this whole human thing unfolded, who we are, where we come from, why we're here, it became very obvious to me that for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years, humanity lived without money. And it was all about absolute enslavement, absolute slavery. Humans weren't even conscious to the extent of knowing that they were enslaved. And then their consciousness changed. And as humanity came out of the absolute depths of ignorance and being completely unconscious as a species, and started to realize that they were being manipulated, and they started challenging the gods and challenging their slave masters, a new tactic was employed. And you start seeing this unravel in the Sumerian texts. And I realized that there was a very specific point in human history where money was introduced to the human race as a tool of enslavement, replacing physical enslavement. It's a brilliant masterstroke where you no longer have to, look after the people and make sure that they don't revolt against you, and you keep them dumb enough, and then when you can't control them anymore, what do? Money was a thing that replaced absolute slavery, and it was introduced very cunningly. And it's when I realized that the oldest form of money were actually Sumerian clay tablets that go back to more than 2000 BC. And this first form of money came in what we today would call negotiable instruments, written in clay. And these negotiable instruments were issued by the priest kings, who were the first bankers, who were the only guys that knew how to write, and they had the scribes that they instructed to create this form of money, or these promissory notes or negotiable instruments that were then became very valuable within the community. And the people would come to the temples to do their banking. Although they used silver shekels or pieces of silver as pieces of tokens of exchange, it was really the clay tablets that were the true valuable negotiable instruments, and not necessarily the silver shekels. So the first bankers were the first priest kings, who came from where? They were appointed by the gods. The Anunnaki, according to the Sumerian texts, appointed the kings from amongst humanity. There was a time when kingdom was lowered to earth from heaven, and the Elohim, or the Anunnaki, appointed certain humans to rule over the others. They gave them specific knowledge, advanced knowledge of alchemy, of wizardry, whatever you want to call it. They gave them fierce weapons with which to smite the people if they didn't listen to them or obey them. And this is how, through fear, these priest kings then started to control the people and claim the land and made the people their subjects, and introduced money into the equation as a tool of enslavement. So when I realized that money was introduced on this level, and that these early priest kings are the same bloodline of the bankers today, there's your joining the dots. From ancient times to modern days, the same royal bloodlines are thousands and thousands of years of banking industry.